I'm Melissa Chartrand. I'm over at Geyer Barnum's. Joining me is Paul Blackmore, local photographer. It's nice to have you here today, Paul.
Nice to be here, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
We are glad to have you here. I want to start with your background here, where you grew up, what you're doing, and how you got into photography.
Okay. Well, I am a Cape native, born and raised. Grew up in Dennis, and yes. Probably when I was 17, 18, I was taking a photography class at high school, and we mostly learned like darkroom stuff and the history of photography, the history of the camera, and it's a funny story, I actually failed the class the first semester, yeah, and I improved up to a C by the end of the year. Never thought anything of it. It was just kind of a, you're in high school, it's just a class to kill time. But it was later that senior year I went to Ireland to play the drums in the St. Patrick's Day Parade because I was in the marching band, and I saw the Cliffs of Moher, and I stood there and said, holy cow, this is gorgeous, and so many people don't see things like this. They're stuck at home, they're stuck in an office building, and there's so much beauty in this world that we miss in our day-to-day routine. And I kind of made it a mission to be the eyes of the world and just go around and shoot things that I thought were beautiful or different, and it's just kind of grown from there.
It is. That was your aha moment, and look at where it's taken you. I mean, your works, your photography to me aren't just photos. They really, truly are, to me, works of art.
Well, thank you.
So, and let's talk about the types of things. So you saw that, and that is your preference for your source of inspiration and shooting.
Yeah, I really enjoy landscape. I think that nature is just gorgeous. It's beautiful in so many ways. But now I'm also enjoying photographing people.
And that's quite different. It's
very,
totally different.
Very different, very different. And that avenue opened up, I worked for the Cape Cod Times for 8 years, and now I do some portrait stuff for Cape Cod Magazine. And I think throughout time, just doing those jobs has like really introduced me to people, and there's a whole nother world of fascination right there.
Sure. Let's go back a little bit to the Cape Cod Times and your experience there, and actually drawing back from your high school experience, because look at where the cameras evolved and how we take pictures and the techniques and what we do.
Right?
So that's pretty remarkable.
Well, it's funny, when I first learned photography, I was developing film in high school, and my first camera was digital, and I've hardly ever used film since then. So it's kind of like a lost art. I do play around with film once in a while. Of course, you have to get that stuff sent out, and it's very pricey and time-consuming. And being someone who really enjoys the environment, I also am very cautious of those chemicals involved. So I just try to go digital whenever I can.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about, because you mentioned you went to Ireland to play the drums. So I definitely want to bring that component in too, that you're also a musician. And do you feel the two artistic expressions cross over in any way?
A little bit, because it's all about creating something. And I feel like, all sorts of art is creating. And being a creative mind, I like to do lots of things like that, from cooking to playing music and making artwork. It's just nice to bring in something to this world and give birth to something that is beautiful.
Sure. And you're heading to the Azores, and why are you doing that?
Well,
how spectacular that is, just in general, because you're not just going on a short little trip. Let's tell our viewers, you're going there for several weeks.
I have a one-way ticket, and I'm probably going to go for 5 or 6 weeks. And there's 9 different islands. I have interest in 6 of them, so I'll be spending a week on those to see the volcanoes and the landscape. One of the things I've been really getting into lately is night photography, doing star trails, and these are like long exposures, sometimes just 10 minutes, sometimes 4 hours, and during that time the camera's open, it's collecting the light, and the world turns, so it appears that the stars are moving. Wow. And so to do these the right way, you really have to have very little light pollution. So some of the places around here that I've been shooting is really just like Chatham and Wellfleet, Truro. These are towns that have very little light pollution, as long as your back is to Boston and you're looking over the Atlantic. There's only so many views.
Right.
But the Azores are very undeveloped, and there's really no light pollution. So I think up in those mountains, the stars are going to look really spectacular.
Oh, sure. You go to great lengths to get just that perfect shot for us. But I'm also curious because you said just a one-way ticket. So I
Right.
hope that you will come back.
I will come back. I just don't know when, and I don't want to feel restricted.
No, how
So,
spectacular is
yeah,
that?
it's great freedom.
So let's talk a little bit about where we can find your work.
Sure. Well, I'm showing it a couple different places right now, and of course you can find it on my website, which is blackmorephoto.com. And I'm at Harvest Gallery. I've got a couple pieces there right now.
Which is in Dennis.
In Dennis, yep. And I will have a nice show there in April on the 10th.
And that show too, we were just chatting off camera that Monica Rizzio, you've done a lot of work for her
Yes,
beautiful
yes.
shots, phenomenal
Getting into the people
musician,
photography.
right?
Yeah, I
Getting
did a
into-
lot of, with Monica, and so she'll be playing at the show. And that's going to be April 10th. And it's going to be my nightscapes, Cape Cod nightscapes. And they're also showing at the Chatham Orpheum Theater. And I've got some here in Hyannis at Rendezvous. Actually, these ones here, my
From
water,
Rendezvous,
the water study that I did 2 years ago are at Rendezvous.
These are just beautiful. Tell me a little bit about this process and where these were from.
Great, sure. These were actually done in St. Martin 2 years ago, and they are sort of slow exposures, maybe like a half second. So not as slow as the stars, but much slower than what people are used to. You take a half second and everything's blurry. So these are done, this one was handheld and this one was on a tripod, but I was in the ocean and just trying to capture the motion of the waves as they crash onto the surf, or this one's actually crashing up off my leg here, and you got the sun dancing off the water.
Wow.
So it's not just the ocean, but it's ocean, it's movement, and it's energy.
Right.
So that's what I liked about it.
What I love about it, Paul, is that you really engage. It's not just a picture of the water. You are in it, you are feeling it, you are living it.
Yeah,
and,
you've got to be
you
really
capture that.
connected.
Sure.
Like a potter. They're actually touching the clay that they're working with.
Right.
And I like to be a part of my subject as much as I can.
Which is just, it's in the telling of your work. Now, before we go, I just want to touch briefly on what it's like to make to work as an independent artist, because certainly that's challenging, and I know, as you say, you've done people and you do a lot of weddings, but that's not really the direction that you'd like to head in.
Well, that's probably true. I mean, I really do like the weddings and working with people, but there's just so much great reward to photographing landscapes and something that's beautiful. Like I said, when I first got into this, it was showing people what they don't
Right.
normally see. Whether it's looking at something they would see in a different way, or just going somewhere where people have never heard of or have never been to show them something that they don't even know exists.
And that's right. It's so beautiful that you want to share that with them. So we'll look forward when you come back from the Azores to see the work there, and then what you'll go on to next, from the water to the stars and everything in between.
Great.
So thanks so much for sharing with us today,
Thank
Paul.
you. It's been a pleasure.
For Paul Blackmore, I'm Melissa Chartrand, wishing you an artful day.